The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you can post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not, and where you can subscribe to my Twitter feed, twitter.com/GaryBaumgarten, which is really a news feed with all the information that you need to know about things that you may or may not be reading about in the papers, hearing about on the radio, and seeing on television. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to the show. Boaz, did you like the video I sent you today of Britney Spears doing the top 10 for David Letterman last night?
I actually enjoyed it, but I have to say that there are some pointers there that I would actually agree with regards to Britney, especially the part about the perfume that she's going to wear. Very important.
She did it in a bikini, and I figured you would appreciate that. And the best comment was the last one, is that maybe if she were president, people would actually pay attention to her. Got to give her credit. She's able to poke fun at herself. It was a lot of fun. We got a real chock full of information show for you today. In the second segment of the show, we're going to have a spokesman from the AARP here because, as you know, on the health reform issue, we have promised you we would get you the facts, and we've been researching the assertions, and we know that people on all sides of the issue have been a little bit loose with their facts, and we've, as much as possible, been able to track down things that not all the people, when the veracity of the is being questioned. We've been able to track it down, and there was a big discussion here the other day about where the AARP stands on health reform. It's so confusing that they've lost 30,000 members themselves over it. And the only way to find out where the AARP stands on it is to get somebody from that organization here. And Jim Dau will be joining us in a few minutes, in about a half an hour. And we got a great story for you a little bit later about the United Nations possibly covering up Iran's nuclear weapons aspirations. But tomorrow in Afghanistan, there is a presidential election. It's an election that's already been marred even before it starts. There's been ballot tampering already. The Taliban has been threatening to cut off the fingers of anybody who votes, because when you vote, you dip your finger in a dye so you don't vote twice. Anybody with a dye on their finger, they're threatening to cut off that finger. There's been, as you know, violence. I'm beginning to wonder what the U.S. role is in Afghanistan. I thought we went in there to get Osama bin Laden and his cronies. Now we're in there to assure an election. I didn't think that was the original mission, and isn't that what George W. Bush was doing with regard to Iraq, changing what the mission was to suit the circumstances? I certainly hope that that's not the path that this president is undertaking. And of course, we know that the mayor of Kabul, the president of Afghanistan, who is essentially going to be the mayor of Kabul, they do not have control of the tribal areas of Afghanistan. It's not such an easy task in front of either the Afghans nor the Americans and the Brits who are there. Our good friend Malou Innocent from the Cato Institute is here once again to help us sort it all out. She is the author of an upcoming Cato white paper called Escaping the Graveyard of Empires, a Strategy to Exit Afghanistan. Malou Innocent, welcome back to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com. And this president doesn't sound, from his recent comments, like he has any strategy or any desire to exit Afghanistan.
Thank you so much for having me, Gary. Yeah, I don't think that the present administration really has a coherent strategy, let alone one that is very rational to the American public. Right now, what the administration is saying is that we must go after al-Qaeda and its extremist allies and ensure that Afghanistan never again becomes a terrorist sanctuary. But what they're not doing is being upfront about what it would take in order to accomplish that objective. You'd have to deploy at least 650,000 troops. That's the rule of thumb that the U.S. military and Marine Corps offer as a rule of thumb for counterinsurgency operations. We don't have that, and even if we did, we shouldn't do that. Also, you have to think that it might take decades to sort of build the necessary security and basic services and infrastructure necessary for it to become a stable, self-sufficient country. And so I don't think that the administration really has a strategy in the sense that they just have a wish list. Of course, we would like these things to happen, but it would take a great deal of effort in order to do so. And so I think we really need to narrow our objectives here.
I also see, and tell me if you agree or disagree with me on this, an inconsistency in our foreign policy with regard to who are our so-called friends and who are our so-called adversaries. I look at Iran as example. I have been one of the many people, and the administration as well, has been very critical of Iran for trying to control the flow of information during the protests and the violence that was conducted on the streets against the people there by the regime. We found it very reprehensible. I'm sure you agree with me that they tried to block that flow of information. We have people right here on News Talk Online that were using Paltalk, putting their lives in jeopardy to bring us live reports from Iran. We were critical of that. Now I understand there is violence that is occurring in Afghanistan in advance of the election there, and the government there has ordered a media blackout of that. And I don't see our government speaking out against that. In fact, we're pretty much supportive of the government there in Afghanistan as we, I guess, provide the security for the election.
Don't you love the double standards? Indeed, indeed. And I think that given what the Iranian protesters went through and the aftermath, the tumultuous aftermath of the elections and the brutality of the government, it deserves to be condemned. But the bright thing that Obama didn't do is sort of argue who won the outcome of the election, and that nuance was critical. But more specifically to Afghanistan, the fact that President Karzai essentially allows undemocratic principles to happen is actually symptomatic of his undemocratic governance in general. Most of the means that he's been using to actually gain the presidency has been through alliances with various warlords and tribal coalitions, and that's really almost how Afghanistan can be governed in some respects, because it has just been this sort of amalgamation of indigenous tribal structures for thousands of years, and many areas of the country still operate that way. However, in the process, Karzai has managed to alienate large swaths of the population because it's appeared as favoritism.